Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Meet Kevin Show. Today, after the crazy bomb of Elon Musk's commentary on Bitcoin yesterday, I have brought Jaime, the CEO of HUT8 Mining, and the head of human resources at HUT8 Mining, Sue, aboard from HUT8 to help us understand what this madness is. Has Elon lost his mind? Is he not understanding things? Is this like being bipolar in the market? I don't know what's going on. Jaime, Sue, I need help understanding this. Help me out here. What did Elon just do?
Well, first of all, Sue is our head of investor relations and corporate development, not human resources. That
my bad.
No worries.
I wrote down HR, not IR, and I'm like, I know that, but I wrote down HR and then I read it without even thinking. I'm sorry. Thank you, head of IR.
We've got an amazing head of HR, so I don't want to take away her crown. Sue's our amazing head of IR. But thanks so much for having me again, Kevin, and it's great to have Sue along as well.
Absolutely. So tell us, Elon's bomb yesterday. What is there truth to this? You know, we know that Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. People like to divide it into transactions, but we know that we can add so many more transactions without increasing our energy use. So what's the miss here? What do people need to know about Bitcoin? I'm getting folks now texting me saying, hey, Kevin, you know, you have this idea of California accepting crypto payments. Maybe you shouldn't say that because there's too much of an energy usage. Now it's like spreading like a wildfire. You know, help us get some clarity here.
Well, look, I think we do need to take a step back a little bit and think about how Bitcoin is viewed as a store of value and what Bitcoin brings to the global economy and to the world at large. Because until you have a conversation about what is the value of Bitcoin, it's hard to have a conversation about, is it the right amount of energy usage, and then have that conversation about energy usage. And the other kind of parallel I want to draw is with respect to fiat. So we don't talk about the energy used in the fiat-based system, but because it's so opaque, you can't tell how much the central banking system uses as far as energy, but all estimates are that it's significantly greater than what the Bitcoin network uses. So I think part of the challenge that the Bitcoin network or the Bitcoin ecosystem has is its transparency. You can see very clearly how much energy is used to create Bitcoin, and therefore it makes it a natural target for this conversation. But I think the value that Bitcoin plays in the distribution of wealth, the safe, the secure and easy transfer of a store of value, the fact that it does trade 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unlike the traditional banking system. I mean, there are so many things that go into this conversation that's not just about energy usage. And then if we do divert to talking about energy, the use of, or not all energy is created equal. Not all Bitcoin mining is done by coal. A lot of Bitcoin mining is done through sustainable energy practices. A lot of it uses renewable energy, and where we see the ecosystem evolving to over time is certainly driving a narrative towards more use of renewable energy and using getting access to sources of energy that wouldn't otherwise have been productive before Bitcoin mining became a source of revenue that could be applied to these otherwise stranded or wasted type of energy production assets. So sorry, that's a bit of a rant.
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think also when you're looking at actual Bitcoin production and the ESG, if you look at what Bitcoin has done for the S, so like social movements, it's been a modicum and means for people to escape tyranny, for financial sovereignty, in perhaps different countries where people don't have the financial economic freedom that we have, here in North America. And then if you also look at it from the governance standpoint, it is permissionless. There's no one centralized authority who is running it. It's a distributed open ledger. So when you look at sort of just beyond the environmental benefits of Bitcoin and the usage associated with that, like what is the value and the energy use associated with those two other use cases of Bitcoin, right? Like it's not just the environment. And we think that those are two other factors that you have to really look at as to like what this technology actually brings to the world. So
really looking at it holistically and then comparing it to the actual financial industry that we have now that is an order of a magnitude more wasteful. I want to ask you, I was reading a little bit about the renewables used in crypto, and a lot of folks mention that 75% of crypto mining is renewable, but then I read another statistic that said it's actually 70 to 75% of crypto miners use renewables, which is obviously very, very different than 70 to 75% is all renewable. If someone's like, oh yeah, 10% of ours comes from solar, the rest is actually. Any thoughts on that? And does it even matter for the long run?
I think it does matter, the source of energy being used, and I think certainly not all Bitcoin miners are created equally. So to kind of cast this wide brush against the industry as a whole really doesn't take into account the differences that exist across the space. So we at Hut 8 Mining, for example, all of our operations are in Alberta, Canada. The province of Alberta is working really, really hard to bring more renewables onto the grid itself. It's already predominantly natural gas and wind-based. We, as a corporation, have recently hired a head of sustainability and are really committed to building out a responsible path towards sustainable mining and sustainable energy use. And there are a lot of miners like ourselves in this space that have this commitment to drive responsible innovation into sustainable mining activities and ultimately further support the ESG narrative that the Bitcoin ecosystem or the ethos of Bitcoin is really all about. It's all about community and distribution of wealth and global value creation and more
innovation, and how can we do things differently and better. Just to Jamie's point too, we did recently join the Crypto Climate Accord, which was an independent group of individuals and companies from the crypto industry who are actively working together to create sort of like a Paris Climate Accord for how do we get the entire industry to a carbon neutral state. So to sort of point the finger at, Bitcoin mining, this is what it is and this is how it's always going to be is quite frankly like quite misguided, because there is a plethora of different initiatives and activism that's happening in the space to make sure that we're not just considering the environment, but we're looking at the environment as a shareholder and as a priority as we continue to sort of grow out this incredibly nascent tech and industry.
Are there other coins that you've considered mining that might be more energy sustainable?
Well, we actually did recently announce a significant investment in GPU mining cards from NVIDIA or specifically CMPs. And the nice thing about evolving our mining strategy to also mine the Ethereum network is GPU-based mining uses significantly less power. So I think there absolutely is an argument to be made for diversification of digital asset mining. But Bitcoin, as the hardest store of value ever known to humankind, cannot be replaced or overlooked. We're very much Bitcoin bulls. Obviously, we're big holders of Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and we truly believe in Bitcoin's long-term position to bring this type of economic freedom on a global scale that we've never experienced before. So we're very, very bullish on Bitcoin. We love what we're seeing in Ethereum and in the DeFi space, and we're really excited to make that strategic move to start GPU mining as well. And we're excited about the differentiation of the power profile there. But we're very much Bitcoin bulls.
Now, there's talk that China might have an edge over Canadian miners because they're closer to where chips are being manufactured. Maybe there are less transportation costs. They can get access to cheaper products quicker. Do you notice, what kind of competition are you noticing? And are you finding any challenges when you talk with analysts regarding Hut 8?
Well, again, and Sue alluded to this. We're in such an early stage in this industry with respect to digital asset mining. And yes, today the manufacturing is generally done out of China, but we're seeing a ton of innovation coming in this space. We believe we'll see new entrants coming out of North America. I think in the not too distant future, we will see bigger technology manufacturers starting to look at this space. And again, we're in the early innings of innovation in digital assets and innovation in crypto. So I don't think we can point to everything as it stands today as how it's going to be forever. I think we really have to look at we're in the early inning, and we need to work together as a community with part of the larger tech ecosystem, and build and use this as a platform to continue to evolve and build and work together to do it, and to extract the value that we really see coming from this form of decentralized peer-to-peer based technology.
I think also if you look at, so, there has been quite a bit of discussion around a concentration of Chinese mining pools, obviously out of China. And we recently joined Foundry Pool a couple months ago. And at that time, I think they were about 12th largest in the world, but they recently just crested to the top 5 out of North America. So they're really, the industry is constantly moving and evolving, and different power players are emerging. We wouldn't say that that's sort of a fixed variable that, the Chinese miners have this incredible advantage. And again, like Jaime mentioned, this equipment that we've ordered from NVIDIA is being delivered in June. We were one of the top 5 players globally to secure this, limited fleet. So there actually is a lot more optionality, I think, than people realize, and we're really excited about that.
It sounds like it's going to be so competitive that you're going to need like security for where this container shows up. It's the shortage has been something else. But I want to ask you, do you see this shortage subsiding? Do you see any talk about when this shortage will at least start ending? I don't think it's going to be over for a while. I mean, I'll take your opinion on it. But when's it going to start turning?
With that, are you referring to the supply chain challenges we're seeing in the semiconductor space?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question to answer. I mean, this isn't a challenge that's limited to our industry. Obviously, we've seen pain coming out of the automotive industry, and I think it's something that's being tackled at a much bigger scale than we can speak to from our position. And I think constraints drive new innovation. So it'll be fascinating to see what evolves from here. And as Sue just mentioned, we're seeing the rate of change at such an accelerated pace now, and so much innovation happening, and so many people coming into this space, and so much development. What's true today may not necessarily be true a month from now, and that's one of the most exciting parts about being in this industry at this point in time.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought that this pandemic is forcing companies into massive margin improvements, making sure their companies are operating much more efficiently to prevent the impacts of inflation. In the event that inflationary pressures start subsiding, I would imagine your company included would end up coming out of this crisis a lot more efficient. What kind of margin improvements are you seeing or projecting?
So I can't speak to margin improvements that we're projecting outside of what we've already talked about. So we do have more efficient equipment coming in over the next few months that we've ordered from MicroBT, and obviously the power usage of the NVIDIA cards are more efficient than we see in traditional ASICs. So that's kind of well understood to be coming as far as efficiency gains for us over the next quarter or two. I think the inflation conversation is particularly relevant to the digital asset space and to Bitcoin in particular, because The concerns around inflation are one of the reasons that people are taking Bitcoin onto their balance sheet as a store of value, as a hedge against inflation, given that we know that it has a limited number that will ever come into supply. Supply cannot be accelerated or manipulated. It's completely decentralized. So I think the inflationary narrative actually is one that supports the appreciation of Bitcoin in general.
I think also just when you're talking about efficiency and gains, perhaps outside of the inflation side of the discussion, how technology has evolved in concert with the actual Bitcoin mining infrastructure is pretty fascinating in terms of how it's been able to address some of the waste issues that happen in particular the oil and gas industry. And I don't really know how much we've talked about the Validus agreement and partnership that we signed earlier this year, but effectively it addresses the fact that about 30 to 50% of an oil and gas producer's flare stack is naturally inefficient, or that just sort of is what it is in terms of how that actual flare stack works.
Energy loss.
Yeah, so it's about 30 to 50%. And the partnership that we've built with Validus, the technology there effectively serves to go in and capture that excess flare gas, and then that would otherwise be emitted into the atmosphere and turn it into digitized energy. And the really cool thing about this is the fact that oil and gas producers are actually incredibly incentivized to have technology and partners like this come in, because if they emit a certain amount of flare gas per day, they actually have to shut down production. So it's actually like a win-win for the Bitcoin mining industry plus oil and gas traditional polluters to effectively collaborate together to solve for an otherwise excess waste and flare gas problem. So just in terms of efficiency gains and how the industry is constantly evolving, we're seeing incredibly exciting stuff happen in terms of how can we actually help clean up the environment.
I mean, that's really interesting. So, go ahead. Good.
No, I was just going to say the other thing that I don't think everyone realizes about most Bitcoin miners in North America, where we are grid connected. One of the things that happens is we're there and we're a steady, stable load for when it's not required by the local community. But when the local community goes into these peak power moments where they need more power than they normally do, either because it's a really, really hot day or there's a snowstorm, Bitcoin miners in general shed that load to feed it back to the grid. So we're able to act as almost a balancing force, because we're a stable off-taker when the energy isn't required, and then we give it back when it is. So it's actually making the grid much more efficient, where Bitcoin miners are working together with local power producers and the local grid.
And that includes solar and wind energy as well, that we actually can off-take some of the grid congestion that happens in the solar and wind energy space.
So how does this work? This flare capturing? I mean, can't any industry work on like this flare capturing?
I think one of the differences with respect to Bitcoin mining is it can go to that source of stranded energy or stranded gas, wasted gas, whatever it looks like, because Bitcoin mining can be mobilized, and behind the fence power generation can occur. So you don't actually have to have a transmission line that connects to that source. You can actually bring the operations directly to where that waste source is, and that's new and unique to our space.
That's fascinating. Now I want to know, is renewable work constrained, because obviously natural gas is still a big push, and certainly it's needed for peak power generation, especially when everybody turns on their air conditioners on those hot months. Or are renewables constrained by battery technology? I mean, how can we build peaker plants that are renewable? We can't, run out in the field and add more panels when we need them. Are batteries, I guess the bottom line question is, are batteries to blame here as to why we don't have more renewables yet? Or what's the limiting factor to get more renewables?
I actually am not an energy expert at all, so I can't speak to how batteries play in. We could certainly recommend some energy people to come on that might be able to go deeper on this side.
Sorry, keep going.
No, Go ahead.
I know that one of the main constraints right now with energy transfer is that it's not economically or efficient to transfer energy more than 500 miles. That's sort of like the sweet spot where it doesn't make sense. It's a bit too expensive for the traditional energy transfer from source to population. But as Jaime alluded to earlier, that's actually what's very exciting when you go back to the actual Bitcoin mining infrastructure, is that you can effectively set it up anywhere. So think about, a waterfall in Africa. It's very easy to set up the mining infrastructure with, limited amount of people that are needed to run it. And then you can simply strap a couple satellites on top. And then that waterfall or that resource now becomes economically productive for that country and it can be located hundreds of miles away from where human settlement and cities actually are in infrastructure. So it's pretty cool, like the potential that this technology has.
Yeah, because I suppose otherwise all of these beautiful waterfalls, they're cool to look at, but hey, we could have Bitcoin miners plugged into them essentially.
I don't know if the technology is there yet, but certainly when we think about where the art of the possible as we look out, these are the kinds of things that the ecosystem is trying to figure out. How do we take advantage of making these renewable sources that otherwise couldn't be productive? How can we make these stranded renewables productive in a way that ultimately contributes to the benefit of society?
And I think that that's a great point, Jaime, that the industry players, we're all constantly thinking about how can we do this better? How can we innovate? I think it's pretty safe to say that all of us, regardless of where we are, we're all thinking about, there's only a few fixed costs and inputs here that we need in order to create this output of high performance compute. So how can we be doing it better is a conversation that we all work collaboratively have together. Like I said, this crypto climate accord that we joined. And that's one of the things that's so exciting about not just Bitcoin, but the digital asset industry in general.
What about, Elon had to have known that Bitcoin currently per transaction uses a lot of energy. Why this U-turn? Is he setting up for a switch to Doge here? Is this a switch to another coin? Is a U-turn? I don't know does he want a discount on Bitcoin to go buy in the dip? What do you think?
Well, certainly he's created a dip. So for those that buy the dip, and Kevin, I know it's on the back of your shirt right now. It's definitely an opportunity to buy the dip. And I don't think any of us can put ourselves in the head of Elon, but certainly people pay attention to his Twitter, and his Twitter has real world immediate impacts. And so it'll be interesting to see how things evolve. Certainly, and I think this conversation is an important conversation. Debate is healthy. We should be having this debate, and people should be engaged in the conversation, and people should be thinking through how we value this innovation, and thinking through how do we look at the traditional banking system's energy use? How do we look at the impacts on the environment for traditional gold and gold mining, for battery production? I think there should be a conversation in every industry about how it interacts with the environment and what those environmental impacts look like. It shouldn't be limited to the world of Bitcoin, but if this is the place the conversation starts, and then it creates a narrative that expands to all industries, and we start to look at industry from an ESG lens, and we're equally kind of doing apples to apples comparisons in how we evaluate industries through this perspective. If it has to start here, I actually think that's wonderful. It should start somewhere, and we should all be able to apply the same filter to the areas where innovation is occurring, to all technology, really. Technology to the bank, to fintech, to the banking system. We should have a healthy discord about the ESG narrative for all industries.
What's actually fascinating about that is really what you're saying is if we start a conversation around energy at Bitcoin, that's going to lead to more research and deep diving into, well, wait a minute, can we actually put our finger on how much just JP Morgan uses?
Yeah.
Maybe rather than comparing Bitcoin to, Sri Lanka and smaller countries and making these comparisons just to try to make a point, we actually compare them to, wait a minute, what does it cost to run all the ATMs we got around?
And then if you tie in the S and the G, and okay, so what are we spending on energy for XYZ operation? But then how is that also affecting social? How is that also affecting things from a governance perspective? Like, how is this forwarding humanities and those who are disenfranchised? Like, if we start then throwing in those comparables when we're having that energy conversation, I think that will be incredible for all industry and looking at, where do we actually see value for what we're doing.
So maybe we're going to thank Elon for kicking off a Discord that creates a healthy conversation for the way we look at all industry in general, not just.
Yeah, at HUT8, we welcome the debate. Like, we absolutely welcome this debate. And we think it's actually a lot of fun to be getting out here and just, really having this conversation for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely something that's been sparked now. So, Elon Musk tweeted this yesterday, which was right before your earnings this morning. Can you tell me a little bit about, give folks maybe a short summary of your earnings, and obviously the markets, reacting to Elon, but tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so we were, obviously it was a surprise to see Elon's tweet last night, and we knew that it would have a significant impact this morning on the markets, of course, and then it made a conversation that much more important as well on our earnings call this morning for us to be on the front foot about our views in this aspect. And the reality is we had the best Q1 revenue, or the best quarterly revenue results that we've had as a company. So we were incredibly proud of the earnings announcement this morning, and the work we've done over the past few months, as I talked about the last time I was here, Kevin, just building out this incredible team and a strategy to really drive growth and diversification using the HUT8 platform. So we're super proud of our earnings this morning, and happy. And again, the not ideal timing for sure from how it impacted the Bitcoin miners in general from a market perspective, but it's a healthy conversation to have. It's a good conversation to have, and we're really proud of how we're positioning ourselves from a sustainability and ESG perspective within the broader narrative.
Yeah.
Nice. As HUT8 mining, I know you carry a lot of coins. Have you ever considered diversifying into? I know it sounds crazy, but another company like Coinbase, for example. Maybe it's an extreme question. I don't know.
I can't say we've ever thought about that. We're really focused on diversifying within our own revenue streams. Obviously, we've added yield accounts so that we're now making fiat off of our Bitcoin holdings, which was a really exciting development so far this year. And we are obviously starting to mine the Ethereum network with this move into GPU. So we're really focused on kind of our own foundation at the moment. But look, we're always thinking. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I think also that's on our radar in particular too is what can we be doing from a business perspective and build out perspective with this extraordinary reserve of Bitcoin that we have on our balance sheet, right? Like, hodling isn't just the sole objective here, because if you believe in the bull case for Bitcoin, which we do, then you have to believe that, like every other financial instrumentation and tool, that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity and products and services that can be built on top of that. So that's another sort of area that we're really excited to continue to explore as well. Like, what can you build on this extraordinary reserve? So,
gosh, yeah, that's incredible. So right now your balance sheet it's mostly Bitcoin, but you're also expanding into Ethereum mining. Do you have a percentage goal of, like, we want 50-50, or maybe it's 40-40-20 into alts? Any thoughts there?
Well, certainly what our intention in the early days is to mine the Ethereum network, but actually to continue to settle in Bitcoin. We're super proud of our Bitcoin balance. We've got 3,500 Bitcoin, all that we've self-mined. So we're definitely Bitcoin bulls. We'll start mining Ethereum, but settling in Bitcoin. But then we're looking forward to how that conversation strategy evolves as we start to move into this space, because this is new for us. The initial 10 test cards from NVIDIA are actually expected to arrive on site today. So the team's excitedly waiting to see the truck pull up and start playing with this new tech. It's a really, really exciting time here at Hut 8, and we're excited to see where this exploration will take us.
I think what's also really cool.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, no, sir. Oh, okay. So I think what's also really cool is that Jaime hired a head of technology, this guy named Jason Zaluski, who's like a staking yield DeFi master. That's sort of his traditional wheelhouse. And so he's the guy who, as you see sort of the explosive growth of the NFT space, the DeFi space,
oh my gosh,
he's really got his thumb on the pulse of all of that. And again, I'm not saying that we're immediately going to be getting into that, but there is an extraordinary amount of optionality to play in these new verticals and industries and digitization trends that we've never been able to play in before. And so, yeah, we're really pumped about what this is going to bring.
Yeah, and then it layers in with our new head of sustainability, so that everything we do, we're doing with a view towards how do we make this the most sustainable company doing this type of innovation.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about your company is you can just set up more containers, right? I mean, how much more land do you have? And I know that you're planning on adding, what is it? I think 70% is your plan to add. Maybe we can hit those numbers again.
Yeah, so we've announced through our partnership with Validus that we can add up to 100 megawatts. The first 35 megawatts we're looking to stand up this fall, and so yeah, absolutely, it's modular infrastructure that we build out. And the nice thing about our relationship with Validus Power is it's behind the fence power generation. It's also, so they bring in mobile infrastructure. Our containers we can bring in as well. So we're really excited about that. And as I say, first 35 this fall, and then we'll build out our roadmap from there.
It's absolutely incredible. So really, you see this space as it grows becoming more competitive and becoming even more transparent. And these challenges like Elon U-turning essentially just being bumps in the road here, and that you're open to really the entire industry. And if there's an opportunity for you, it sounds like, to maybe mine a different coin that proves to be more profitable, then maybe you mine that and settle in Bitcoin. Are we going to see any Dogecoin mining anytime soon?
That is not on our roadmap, but as I say, we're very much looking at Bitcoin and then Ethereum, and look, the art of the possible will always remain the art of the possible, and that's the beautiful thing about this space.
You know what I actually love about the Dogecoin story, or just tremendous growth, is it really is a symptom of like the triumph of the internet. Like the internet is the new decentralized hedge fund. Like the way that GameStop and Dogecoin has sort of flipped traditional financial narratives on their head, I think is really fascinating. Like it's extraordinary to see. And yeah, it's a really fun space to be in.
Yeah,
no kidding. There's certainly never a moment of boredom in this world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, no kidding. I mean, how do you feel about, some folks say that, if you can move markets with the power of a tweet, that potentially there's a risk of market manipulation. Do you think that cryptocurrency markets are still at that young stage where we are really subject to, like, we should really expect continued volatility like this, just simply because of tweets, or is it just going to be a short-term thing? And hey, in a couple of years, we'll have grown so much that it won't even matter anymore.
I don't think it's just crypto that is exposed to tweets. I think what we saw with GameStop and kind of that activity on the equities side. I don't think it's a crypto only conversation.
I also think that there is a tremendous amount of institutional investment and real eyes that are coming into the space, and that is going to really temper this volatility long term.
That's a good point. Now, I do wonder, though, if we get more institutions in, I can't help but think about what happened with Archegos, the 20x over leverage, and initially thought to be 8x leverage. Is there a concern that institutions might have more access to derivatives and creative options that would allow them to potentially over leverage in the crypto space and lead to potentially larger crashes if we had one?
Unlike what's available in the fiat space?
Good point. Yeah, also true. Okay, yeah.
So
not a concern of yours.
Well, look, I think that one of the fascinating paradigms that exists in this space is people apply different rules to digital currencies than they do to fiat currencies, and the logic is lost on me when that happens, because ultimately they're similar instruments, just packaged in different vehicles.
I guess that's a good point. You touched on. I remember now. You touched on that last time, and it's just dawning on me. I mean, really, like, okay, yeah, okay. Say there is an Archegos in the crypto space. It doesn't mean the entire system has to fall apart. So, I mean, very fair point. The with your coins, you're now yield farming with those. Is this lending to institutions essentially?
So we just have two strategic counterparties that we work with, Genesis, and we've recently announced with Galaxy as well. So very strategic counterparties. We have 1,000 Bitcoin currently committed with Genesis, and we'll do the same with Galaxy, where we lend them 1,000 Bitcoin and earn a yield in return. But it's managed by these strategic counterparties.
Any reason just those two? I mean, why not just lend to anybody? You've got blockchain. If you need a margin call, use the blockchain. You know what? Why bother vetting? Why not just lend to anyone?
Well, we certainly want to make sure our Bitcoin is safe. It's absolutely about trusted counterparties and making sure that our assets are absolutely secure.
There's also additional benefits to both of these counterparties from a services perspective, that they do have a relatively robust platform of additional services that we could potentially leverage if we wanted to. And they're just incredible partners. Like we saw what Galaxy just brokered with BitGo. I think it was about a week and a half ago. Like we're really proud to have those players as partners of ours, that we can continue as they grow, that we can grow with potentially. So that's another big part of it as well, I think.
And BitGo is our custodian partner already. So it's wonderful to be working with some of the top players in the industry.
So really, even though you're considered, if folks say, hey, crypto miner, really you're also making money on appreciation of your assets, but also on now lending those assets. And then it sounds like there's the potential for getting other benefits back and to really expand your business even more.
Certainly strategic partnerships are core to our business model.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. Anything else? I mean, anything else we haven't covered yet? I mean, certainly this Elon, talk about energy. It's gonna be fascinating to see how this plays out. We'll definitely, I imagine, we're gonna get so many more studies spawned by this on energy, which I agree with you. I think it's such a great argument that this is a good thing. Yeah. What else are we missing? Is this something where we just look at this and go, look, this is going to be some temporary drama here. If you're a hodler, buy the dip and don't worry about it. Not financial advice, obviously. But what's anything else we're not covering?
Well, I think if you look at the history of Bitcoin, we've had these moments before. I think during the last cycle, there was a lot of talk about what Bitcoin was being used for. And that's kind of a narrative you don't hear anymore, because it's well understood that fiat-based currency is the more dominant currency used in illicit transactions. So that narrative isn't something that Bitcoin has to face today, but it was a similar type of tsunami kind of event that the industry had to tackle during the last cycle. And I think now the energy conversation is the big one that we need to hit head on in this cycle. But again, I think it's incredibly important. I think over time, the Bitcoin ecosystem and narrative will be better for it. We'll be better positioned. We'll be able to, again, have really, really healthy debates on how investment in this industry compares to investment in other industries that are more opaque and aren't having the same conversation. So I think this is just, to your point, a blip along the way. We know this industry is in its early innings. We're going to have to go through these tough conversations, and they're important to have. And ultimately, over the long term, they strengthen the value, they strengthen the commitment. And I think Sue sent me a quote the other day about smooth waters don't make a good sailor. So ultimately, you need to go through these storms to be very, very hardened as an asset.
And for me personally, I'm incredibly excited about the Ethereum ecosystem, the decentralized finance space, and the amount of opportunity and business that is going to be unlocked in a effectively disintermediated space, like where smart contract is law, not the market maker, not the mortgage broker. I'm not saying that we want to disrupt those industries altogether, but it's incredibly exciting to think about when smart contract is governing interactions between two people versus sort of a third party, like what that's going to do in terms of progress and innovation. And I'm just really excited that we've got the optionality now to play in that space.
When you think about what the whole concept of broad decentralization and putting the individual in the center of control of their data and their domain, as opposed to your big centralized entities, I think it's impossible to imagine a world where the individual goes to the center of it all.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's incredible. And you see those options as well with future, Bitcoin versions, because right now we're seeing so much of the smart contracts in Ethereum, but you are hodling in Bitcoin. Does that even require any kind of transition, or what are you thinking there?
I'm just speaking to the art of the possible as the blockchain ecosystem continues to evolve. Impossible to imagine, but just the space in general, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, the Bitcoin blockchain kind of being the center or the originator of all of the innovation that's subsequently come based on that original white paper from Satoshi.
Wow. So incredible. I mean, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I thank you both so much for your time. How can folks learn more about your company and what you do?
Well, you can follow us on our social channels or visit our website. We are actually putting our website under construction, so we're looking forward to a new website coming later on this summer. But we try to be really, really accessible as a team here at HUT8, so we're definitely not hard to find.
Yeah, I'm at Big Suey on Twitter and available to chat anytime. And Jamie is at Jaime Leverton, and it's at HUT8 Mining. So.
There you go.
I'm sorry, that was on Instagram or Twitter, you said?
On Twitter. Twitter's the best.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, this has been a blast. Thank you both so much. If you can, stand by for one moment. Everybody else, if you found this helpful, consider sharing the video and subscribing. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.